Hey there, and welcome back to OpenFire. About 1 year ago, I started my journey in developing OpenFire, mixing together two of my favorite games, Mega Man Battle Network and Advance Wars. But what really got me going was playing One Step from Eden some time ago. My goal was to develop and publish OpenFire within 2 years, and as of this month, I'm about 1 year through. So let's see how much work I've gone through together. It all started when I challenged myself to draw a small team based on different firearms. I chose the kind that you would see in any kind of shooting game, like a pistol, a sniper, an SMG, and a shotgun. Then I tried hard to make each character's personality fit their chosen weapon. This video also goes through all the different kinds of inspiration I took in from different video games to the artists that I follow. If I could do one of those awesome drawings where the main characters are in a car, that would be pretty cool. I had a very bare bones prototype of how the game would look and play out, and you may have noticed that back then the project name for my game was Man. This one is very much an extension of the first one. I talked about the characters themselves and the world around them. It's a civilization divided into different eccentric factions. These factions often contradict each other in a constant power struggle. However, when a faction's power and influence becomes a little bit too dangerous, then it's up to our team's organization to step in and take action. And that's where our playable characters come in. So I had a bit of a short pause between this video and the next, and what happened there was I tried to jump to a different game, Last Reloaded. It was supposed to be a rehash on one of the very first games I ever made in Unity for GMTK 2020. It was a minimalistic survival game mixing the resource gathering of brains and the addictiveness of Tetris. Then you would have to fit things into a square and then answer questions that would change how much resources you had, seeing how long you could last given the mechanics. I planned that you'd be able to win the game through a lot of different scenarios, but it ended up being more work and I was hoping that it would just be a really small game. So ultimately, I went back to continue pursuing OpenFire. Over my mini break though, I did a lot of coding work, but initially my game sample had a lot of things wrong with it that needed to be corrected right away, or else things would just get harder for me as I kept going. Even more so, things were just so inefficient. I had variables running up and down different scripts instead of using Godot's autoload feature. My initial implementation of cards at this point was also less than ideal, having a lot of redundant information. I practically rewrote a lot of scripts from scratch, but it was worth it since after that I was able to work much faster. Now, I was really proud of this one because I broke apart how I used tools outside of Godot to automate how I imported cards. Then I was able to build upon all the improvements I talked about in the previous devlog. I was able to make the cards and stats fully realized and adjustable within the Godot editor. And of course, developer art isn't something that I can sell for thousands of dollars, but I really like how they look. Though looking at it now, the cards still feel pretty janky, don't they? So that's something that I'll have to fix for the future. This had also been when I started using an avatar for my videos. Hey! The reason why my videos backgrounds are oh so colorful is because I used pure black for my character's pants. But personally, I'm quite happy about how my videos are with all the colors going around. But still, a lot can be asked for from my editing skills and even more so my voice. You can barely hear me over the music. With previous mechanics working, it was about time for me to face my greatest enemy, the user interface. But halfway along the month, Godot 3.5 dropped with so many lovely additions to control nodes. Unique name referencing was a big game changer, especially with how long paths can get when you're setting up UI. And I've said this before, but before 3.5, you couldn't actually toggle the visibility of canvas layers. All of these new things mixed with some good old animation players made handling control nodes feel a lot more like making a pretty PowerPoint presentation. After a bit of back and forth, I was able to make some pretty good looking menus for how to handle your cards, how to transition between scenes, and although I still haven't done much for the shop, it's there, and I have plans for it too. Now small mechanics and UI are good and all, but the true meat of any kind of game are all the enemies. Bowser has his troops, Robotnik has his robots, and likewise all the robot masters in Mega Man came with their own mini set of enemies. So I made 4 faction leaders built around classic media star types, then built a small posse for each of them. Now that's a lot of enemies. Each enemy has 3 main A components, the AI, the attacks, and last but not least the animations. Of course, the bosses have a lot more inherent complexity within them that I'll have to code in myself. These enemies are going to be a lot of work, and a lot of work they still are. As of right now, I only have about half of these enemies ready and working, and you'll slowly be seeing them as I release my game again and again to see how they feel. In this one, I mostly talked about my goals for OpenFire. I talked about when I would release an early public copy of the game, which I did last December, and how much I just needed to buckle down and start working on OpenFire. It's really a lot of grit and grinding to reach the different goals that I set out for myself. If you ever want to support me more, then you know what to do here on YouTube. But you can also look at my Ko-Fi, and if I've prepared for it, a Twitter page just to follow me more closely on all the things I'm up to. I know this video is supposed to be all about OpenFire, but I also did some other things, and one of those other things is around last October. I always want to get into the spirit of the October prompt lists and do something creative and productive. So for each day of that month, I made it my mission to learn a little more about Blender every day. This doesn't really have anything to do with OpenFire right now, but maybe if I worked extra hard, I could plan out a 3D game in the future. So with quite a bit more work ever being made, I'm finally able to talk about the systems that I use for animations. I used to have a lot of different timers in place to handle different states, but now I can better utilize the animation player node in order to handle a variety of things such as frames, triggers, and sometimes even pause the game for really cool effects. Aside from looking cool and making the game feel more polished, the true purpose of these animations is for warning the player before the attacks so that the player can learn on the fly each enemy's trigger and attack pattern. More importantly, lots of these animations were greatly inspired by old sprite sheets and new pixel art animations you can find abundantly on Twitter and Pinterest, but not to mention the more recent updated sprite animations in one step from Edom themselves. They are gorgeous. And finally, it was the day before Christmas where I uploaded a short demo copy of OpenFire. You face through a small gauntlet of enemies, then face the dummy boss that I made. Afterwards, you unlock a randomized mode where enemies are spawned at random, and if you haven't played it, I highly suggest you do. Unfortunately, there are a couple bugs that I need to squash and a few debug comments that I left in. A few people also left some great ideas to what I could do and change about the game, and I've taken note of every single one of them. All the fixes are coming soon on its own video, don't worry. That was a lot. A year is a lot, and there's still so much more work to be done. For example, I want the stage selection to feel a lot more like Into the Breach or Invisible Ink, where you select points of interest on a map before you enter the mission. One plan I'm super excited for is the ability to replace or upgrade your sidearms during a run. Then there's still a whole bunch of enemies and cards that I haven't implemented, just waiting to be added in. Lots of work, and I hope that you join me through all of it. If you haven't played the alpha release, I highly suggest you do, and comment more what I could make for the game. Or if you have any suggestions at all, I would love to hear about them. But that's it for now. Thank you so much for watching, have a lovely afternoon, and don't you ever stop dreaming. Without further ado, OpenFire. Welcome back to the world of OpenFire. I haven't been able to touch OpenFire. Hello, and welcome back to my indie game, OpenFire. Hey there. Welcome back to my world, OpenFire. Welcome back to my indie game Devlogs on OpenFire. Hey there. Welcome back to my game OpenFire. Oh, hey there. You caught me trying to add a bit of polish to the demo for my indie game OpenFire. Hey there, and welcome back to OpenFire.